All right, everyone, the final video for chapter test 2. Let's look at question 15, and it says that a science teacher decides to investigate a relationship between further mathematics test score and science test score and gives us this summary shown below. We've got the mean and the standard deviation for each subject, and it tells us that they want to predict the science test score from the further math score, which means that science is my RV, maths is my EV, and I can see here that all of the rules are written with science on the left, which means it's my RV. That's important because if science is my RV, then it is my Y variable. So that means that my mean here is Y bar, and this is the standard deviation of Y, which means maths is my EV, and this is my X bar, and this is my standard deviation of X. Since I have these 5 values, hopefully we remember then that we need to head to these formulas. So that B, the slope, would be R times SY over SX. And if I do that, that means I take 0.82 times it by 8.71 and divide it by 9.84. And if I open my calculator, main menu, we get 0.72583 the answer. And the question rounds everything to 2 decimal places, so we'll make this 0.73 as the slope. Using that, I can actually straight away get rid of A, C, and D, because only B and E use 0.73 as the slope. I then have to find my intercept, and remember that my formula for the intercept is A equals Y bar minus B times X bar. So then I have 32 minus 0.73 times 30.18. And again, in my calculator now, if I enter that, 32, I get 9.9686. And to 2 decimal places, that becomes 9.97. So my best answer there is B. Question 16, this one stumped us a little too. Which of the following statistics is never negative? We've got a whole heap of different statistics there, and if it's never negative, we need to consider which ones could be negative. Very quickly then, median, we could have a negative value if we've got negative data, that's possible. A residual value, remember that line, and I've got my dots above and below. If the dots sit below the line, I have a negative residual, so it's not B. The standardized score is talking about my Z score, and remember that I can have, if this is my mean, I can have +1, -1, -2, etc. So it's not C. A interquartile range, that's getting the difference between my 2 quartiles, can't be negative, so that is my answer. But if I check the last one, a correlation coefficient, that's my R value, and I know that R goes from -1 to +1, so the best answer there is D. Question 17 here now has a least squares regression line, and we can see it there. We can see we've got a negative slope, and it wants us to find the corresponding residual plot. Now, if we look at the original scatter plot, remember with a residual plot, my x-axis here, my EV, will be the EV for the residual plot. And then all of these little positive and negative values will be measured, and they go onto my residual plot. So if I look at this first of all, I have 2 values here which are below the line, which means I have 2 negative residuals. I then have 5 values which are above the line, which means I have 5 positive residuals, and to end with, I have 3 that are below the line, so I have 3 negative residuals. So in terms of drawing my residual plot then, if this is my 0 line, I should have 2 that are down here, then I have 5 that are up here, whatever they look like, and then I have 3 that are down here. So in terms of looking at my residual plot then, A, if I look 2 below, 5 above, 3 below, could be A. B, 2 below, 1 above, 1 below. Remember, I need 5 below in a row, so it's not B. C, 2 below, 5 above, 1 on it, another one sort of on it, so maybe C, but it's honestly not looking great. D, 2 above, 5 below, so clearly not D. I had to start with 2 below. and E does 1 below, 1 above, 1 below, so it's also not E. I have to decide between A and C. Now, remember I said here with C, like these two are sitting like right on the line. And so this point here, the second one along, if that's meant to be this point here, that doesn't quite add up because that one really is quite negative in comparison. So definitely then in terms of my best answer, A is going to be my best answer there. I could also be a bit more precise and check the fact that, I just need a different color highlighter, both of these values here, like effectively on the 8 line, so they should both be on that 8 line there. That this one shouldn't have moved across. So again, that's why A is the best answer there. Question 18, it says the number of male moths caught in a trap in a forest and egg density, eggs per square metre in the forest, as shown in the table below. Conduct relevant statistical analyses to determine which of the following statements is correct. So we need to work out what this means by relevant statistical analyses. So I would just quickly read all the A, B, C, D, E, and it's talking about like moderate positive association, no association, 82% of the variation, strong positive, 67% of the variation. All of those statements refer to me interpreting either an R value or an R squared value. So that means I need to head to my calculator and go find them. So we will go to our calculator then, and if we head to our statistics menu, remember that I need to put my EV data in list 1 and my RV data in list 2. In this scenario, we'll be seeing if the number of male moths as my EV predicts the egg density, so eggs per square metre. Male moths being my EV, that's going to go in list 1, so I'll start with 35, and egg density being RV goes in list 2, so that would go in there for 71. I'm going to pause the video for us and just quickly enter all the data. So as you can see, I've put all my EV data in list 1, all my RV data in list 2. And so I'm going to go calc regression, linear regression, X list 1, Y list 2. And if I now press OK, on this printout here, I can see that my R value is 0.8199. So let's call R value then 0.82. And my R squared value is 0.67, which as a percentage would be 67%. So now I need to decide based on them which statement is correct. First of all, an R value of 0.82, remember from our standard table, that means that there is a strong positive linear association between the two variables. So straight away, that means I can get rid of A and I can get rid of B. It's definitely looking like D then is my answer. I am just going to make sure that C and E aren't correct though. Both C and E are trying to interpret that coefficient of determination, which is R squared, so they need the percentage 67, so that gets rid of C. And when I interpret that percentage, I always do it as 67% of the variation in the RV can be explained by the variation in the EV, and we said that egg density was the RV. This has male moths first, so that is not the answer either. We're now up to the final two questions, and they look at this information here. So scatter plot shows the wrist circumference and ankle circumference in centimetres of 13 people. We've got a least squares line there, and we know that ankle circumference is the explanatory variable that's said to us in the question, but also it's on my x-axis. So again, EV and RV are labelled. When the least squares line on the scatter plot is used to predict the wrist circumference of the person with an ankle circumference of 24, residual will be closest to. So what this needs me to do is actually look at ankle circumference 24 and pick the person, which is this person here. Now, I'm going to estimate what their residual is. And if I just look at that, their dot is sitting below the line, which means they have a negative residual. So straight away, D and E are gone. Now, I sort of have to now work out what this value is. What I want to point out to you is on the scale over here, like the big grid lines are showing a difference of 1, and then we've got all these little bits in the middle which are 0.1 each time. So if I was doing this on paper, I would pull my ruler across actually. And if I use my ruler and like track this along here, then we can see that from the dot to this grid line is like 0.3. And if I did the same thing for when this line here comes across, this ends up being like 0.4. So in terms of what my residual is, if I add them both together, I get 0.7 as a total. And remember, it's a negative value because the dot is sitting below the line. And so A is the best answer there. Question 20, this is a normal distribution standard deviation question. It says the residuals for the least squares line have a mean of 0.02 and a standard deviation of 0.4. I could draw a normal distribution for this question, but I don't need it. It tells me that the value of the residual for one of the points is 0.3, and I have to find the standardized value, which means I have to find the z-score. Now, remember, formula for a z-score means I take the actual score, I subtract away the mean, and I divide that by the standard deviation. So this is me now doing negative 0.3 minus 0.02 and dividing that by 0.4. And again, on my calculator, if I head to the main menu, negative 0.3, I then get an answer of negative 0.8 as my residual. So, sorry, as the z-score. So A is the answer there. Another thing I just want to point out to you, the actual value here, negative 0.3, is smaller than the mean. Because it's smaller, it means I am going to have a negative z-score. So just in case of check mechanism, does my answer make sense? That would mean I'd get rid of B and E straight away, and my answers would have to be either A, B, or C. I hope this video was helpful for you. Again, like I said at the start, please let me know if you have any more questions, and I will record another video then for the short answer homework sheet that accompanied this test. Thank you.